Well, it has been a little bit since we've had a midweek Quiet Life podcast, but I felt like today's topic was one that I wanted to make sure I get out there in its own little slot, and I wanted to do it as intentionally and as well as possible. So this podcast is on YouTube as well, and I'll get right into it. If you're familiar with the pursuit of manliness at all, then you have heard me speak about Tribe. And Tribe was the realization of Tribe was birthed on around December 13th, 2017. You say, how do you know that date? Well, I looked it up the other day from a Facebook post I made in what is now a Quiet Life community. Back then it was the Pursuit of Manliness closed group because I didn't know what else to call it. The post was, I'm going to summarize it, was basically what do you need for the following year to experience real, genuine growth? And a guy named Greg, who I responded to him by calling him Gary, evidently, so my apologies, Greg. Greg knows me. He knows that I'm a mess. But he basically said, I need a man in my life. I need a group of men, and he went into his answer. And I had been wrestling with a few months before that, back in about August, September of that year, of how do we really equip, put tools in the toolbox of men, of husbands, of fathers, of, what does this look like? And a friend of mine, Tim, and I were sitting outside of a coffee shop one day, and we're kind of, bouncing these things around, and and I know, and this and that and the other, and, and it just kept kind of marinating in my mind. And when Greg said that, I thought, we're just going to do it. And where the name Tribe came from, I really don't know. I have no idea how I landed on that. But I know before that night was over on December 13th, I had reached out to 10 different guys and asked them to be a part of this community that would start on January 1st. And I don't remember what the time frame was, but we ran it from January 1st till the end of May. 10 guys, 6 of them within about the first few weeks, just it wasn't their thing. No big deal, okay? And there are a few other guys hung on, and we eventually created like a Facebook group and said, hey, we need a place where we could all talk on a regular basis. And originally it was me talking to them every week or every other week or something, just checking in, see how you're doing. And right from the get-go, we're going to read the same Bible plan and stuff, but Tribe has just continually grown. As a matter of fact, the other day I was going through looking for something, and I came across an old Zoom call from one of the much earlier sessions of Tribe, and it was rough, man. It was just rough, and if you guys were there, then you know. And where they're at today, actually, we got one tonight that, man, I'm just fired up for, and it's night and day. But one of the things I know, and I've talked to people about this, is I know from my perspective as the guy that's kind of like the facilitator of Tribe, my character was not in a place to lead like the guys that we have today. And I don't even know if I would say I would lead them as much as I'm on this journey with them, but I think you get what I'm saying. Like my character was not in a place to have a global tribe like we do now, which has been on I don't know how many countries, and we got guys in this session alone, almost 40 states, and I know we have 4 countries represented, and we have this massive net. Like it's hard for me or anyone else in Tribe to travel anywhere in this country and not pass by where a guy in either this session or recent sessions is living. And it's remarkable because only God can do that. As much as I love Tribe and I try to describe it to people and say, I'm telling you, I've never witnessed anything like this. Not the format, okay, but the community and the conversations that men are willing to have. I've never experienced anything like it. And when they do meet up, and I'll get into that in a bit more in a second, it's an instant brotherhood. It's not I have to get to know you. It's like, no, we already know who you are, right? And so that has been remarkable. And I know this with Tribe. It is a big commitment. The financial commitment is $150 for 6 months. Some guys, man, I ain't got that. Look at where you do spend your money, though. And I bet you'll find that in a course of a month, you have wasted $25 somewhere. Because that's what it comes out to, $25 a month. And it's a 6-month commitment. You're like, well, I don't know. I completely understand. Every guy has to reconcile, do I want to do this or not? And one of the things we try to do with that on the onset one is give you a ton of information about what it is, almost to the point where I'm tired of talking about it, and I just want to get the next one going. But I want to make sure as many guys as possible understand what it is. But the covenant part, and I think that's a big deal, and we'll get more into that in a second. So as Tribe has grown, I've also seen what I feel like the need is for more boots on the ground type ministry. Let me take a swig of coffee here. I didn't necessarily need a swig, but I know holding this little cup, and I know it's getting colder. I don't like cold coffee, unless it's iced coffee. So more boots on the ground ministry stuff. I love the online world as far as ability to reach people that you would never, be able to come in contact with. I love that we can get information out at lightning speed to guys and all over, and I don't have to put it in the mailbox or whatever. But again, looking at that boots on the ground, and there's been some resources from the Pursuit of Manliness, and I explored a couple ideas or some ideas, I don't know, a handful of years ago, and they just didn't come to fruition. But there have been some resources that, man, they've been sent all over the place, in which I'm proud of. I'm thankful that the Lord has allowed that to happen. One of them is Point Man. I've created a couple Point Mans. No, you can't find these on the website right now. They're down. But Point Man was one of those little books that I would send out. I would give you the digital one. The idea was it would help you lead your family in some conversation. I'll tell you the greatest hang up with creating Point Man resources was figuring out whatever you're going to read and how to break it down for that specific time window so that it wasn't so much. Because I was trying to think of people who would read it with, like, I don't know, their 8-year-olds and stuff, and I didn't want to lose them. So, okay, what's digestible? But some people used it with, grown-ups and whatever, and to me that was a challenge. There may be Point Man resources down the road. I have nothing in the works right now, but we've had those resources. I've sent those all over the place, all over the world, and I'm thankful for that. There was 2 of those. There was Mark and Acts. And so I had outlined like Genesis, I had looked at some others, and I'm like, man, how can you there's certain parts of the Bible that you can lose people pretty quickly. So that's where that was at. That One More Round was a resource that was created pre-COVID. I know that. Because around the COVID-ish time, March of 2020, I just felt like I was going to reshoot that video series. The first time I shot it all on my phone. The second time I think I used a camera, when I'm using the same camera I'm using right now to record this for YouTube. And I did it out in my garage. The lighting's not great. I tried to wear the same shirt for every video. I had a guy come up to me and say, do you own other shirts? Yeah, I'm just trying to create some continuity. I probably had COVID during the time of recording that, but I know like when that happened, just to try to help guys connect with guys, I gave it away. And I said, I've sold a lot of them, but during that period of time for 2 months, I think I gave it away. I probably had 20 guys reach out and say, hey, I want to have it. And all I said was, we just need a Zoom call where I can kind of talk and explain it to you. The heart behind it, whatever. Did they all do it? Probably not. Some people just are curious about free stuff. But the guys that did, I got to hear some cool stories. One of them was a guy, JT in Wyoming, man, invited me onto his call with his guys. And man, that was humbling to see real men, real faces, to see the space where I believe that they meet and get to hear from them. Because when I record them, I do think about how will guys use this? I mean, I'll be talking to the camera thinking, what's a guy in a chair thinking as he hears this who, I don't know his context to the group or me or whatever. It doesn't matter if you know me or not. It just matters, like, do you feel comfortable in this group? So I try to create stuff for me as more of a lone wolf who would be crazy hesitant to show up to one of these things. What would I be comfortable participating in? And so JT, man, I'm thankful for that. I have a screenshot that I took. I found that the other day too of talking to your guys. Just like, man, that was cool. And they're out in Wyoming, and then we had Building Better Men Together series, again, another one that was through Nehemiah, and man, you guys have responded incredibly to Point Man, One More Round, and Building Better Men Together. Are they the best produced, printed No. I mean, look at me. If you know me, you're like, we're thankful that you can put a sentence together, brother. But I try to think of something that would be equipping your people for wherever you're at, your season of life, stage of life, where you live, whatever. And thank you for the feedback of telling me how it works with whoever you tried to use it with. You guys have been very kind. Nobody was critical, and you probably could have been. But thank you. You're very kind, and I always appreciate hearing your perspective. I don't care what it is. I do. I always appreciate hearing your perspective. And so throughout the course of that time, I continually went back to this idea of like, how do we equip men for their face-to-face? And what does that look like? And as Tribe has grown, it has grown in ways that I couldn't ask or imagine, right? As Scripture tells us. I had someone at my house the other day. It was Friday. On Friday, someone was sitting. I'm sitting here at my desk where I do a lot of pursuit of mailing and stuff. They were sitting over in my wife's office chair over there, and we were talking. And they said, have you heard from your guys in Tribe today? And I said, every day. And they're like, really? And I said, no, seriously, every day. Like at that time, and I don't know right now, I'm going to take a peek. Hey, there's another Tribe guy that just sent me a message. I saw the notification, just took a look. Real time, ADD. Okay. Every day. So what Tribe used to be, and I think in the last few sessions it's really moved away from this mindset, it was kind of a checkbox thing where I did my challenge video. I watched a couple videos. I attended the Zoom call. I did my reading. I'm reading my book or whatever it was, and whatever. But I think there was two major turning points that started to change Tribe. One was when a friend of mine, Jace, he was living in California at the time, took spring break trip and visited like 20 guys. He just did a big Midwest loop. And guys went out of their way to kind of like have lunch with him, meet up with him. He stayed at their houses, whatever. And I know I drove 3 hours to Lexington. I had dinner with Jace, some other guys at Joella's Hot Chicken. And then they'll sponsor me at some point, right? And then I stood in the parking lot with these guys for hours talking. And then, and I knew Jace was coming to my house, a day or two later, but I wanted to meet these other guys. And I remember telling my wife, I don't know when I'll get this opportunity again, which is so funny in hindsight. So from there, we realized no, guys really do want to get together. They don't want to live just in this online space. And so the first men's retreat happened, and we were like, man, that was cool. These guys showed up. I got to meet these people that I've talked to on Zoom or whatever, and they're real. And then the second men's retreat, it was kind of cool. Like we did that again, right? Like, okay, here we are again. Maybe this is something we're going to keep doing. But the third one, and if you're at the third one, you might know what I'm talking about, especially if you were at one or two before that. It was just different. There was nothing that I did different. The programming, the format, if you will, was pretty much the same. There's nothing that magical about it. What's special is the community of men that show up there. To give you some context, we'll have about 200 guys register, about 175 show up. 70 men in Tribe show up to that retreat. 70 men in Tribe start showing up throughout the entire week. So by the time they get to Friday, man, they've been hanging out with each other 2, 3, 4 days, okay? And the conversations and the camaraderie that happened this year were just different. I can't explain it, but I have heard it from so many different guys. They're like, man, that just felt different. It felt deeper. It felt more authentic. And I said, I feel the same way. Now, obviously, my perspective is going to be quite a bit different as the guy who's kind of putting it on or hosting it. But to hear guys say that, who traveled ridiculous miles, slept on the ground, maybe Airbnb, maybe hotel. Some of these guys are, we have guys at Airbnb who've never been in the same space together that to my knowledge, 8 guys in a house or whatever it is. And the brotherhood is just natural. They're hopping in cars with each other, going to get breakfast, whatever. It's only God can do that. But I'll go back to that. Still looking at how do we get boots on the ground? What needs to happen when they leave? Or how can we help resource them up to say, hey, here's something you can do that might help cultivate that locally. There's a lot of great men's ministries out there. There's a lot of churches doing great men's ministry within their church. But I know from my perspective, there's a lot of guys that are hungry for either men's ministry or trying to just build a brotherhood of guys that they can have conversations with and they can trust. And so a few months ago, we went out of town, went to the mountains for a little bit, and I just, changed the perspective, changed the way that your mind kind of thinks for a minute. The idea of Tribe Builder was just clearer than maybe it's ever been. And so I sat down, I tried to map out what is portable from Tribe that we could get in the hands of somebody else and say, here you go. If you're willing to be responsible to people, and I think that's a turning point for a lot of guys. We like to attend. We don't necessarily want to be the guy responsible to other people. But if you're willing to show up when you say you're going to show up and do these things, perhaps build a localized tribe. Again, I'll go back to this. I know the guys in Tribe who engage in it, like myself, are not short on community because we connect every single day. There's not a day goes by. Unless you purposely neglect being a part of that community, there's not a day goes by that I don't hear from a number of them, that they don't hear from me, that there isn't a conversation taking place, that we have so many time zones represented that no matter what time of day you're up, if you check into the group, there's something fresh that has happened every single day, every day. I love that. I've said before, when you walk with the Lord, you don't walk alone. When you walk with a tribe, I think you walk different. Because I'm going to get in the Word today. I'm going to show up for my challenge. I'm going to get on Zoom. I'm going to reach out to that guy. But here's beyond all that stuff. That's all check boxes. What's happening is these guys are all going out of the way to meet up with one another, hike together, go to ball games together, go to church together, come to the retreat together, stay in Airbnbs together. I mean, and not only they are doing this, their kids are starting to connect with that as well, and the wives. The wives are starting to have some friendships being developed where they get to know each other. We've done some things in tribe, but even beyond that, I'm thinking of a couple that they travel a lot and they'll say, I'm passing through so-and-so Arkansas. Is anybody in that area? And so, well, I am. Okay, let's meet up. And you'll see the picture of them meeting up. I don't share that stuff very often because that's their stuff. Maybe I should. Maybe I should, because maybe there's guys that used to be in tribe. They're like, that wasn't what it was like when I was there. I know. Only the Lord can do that. Only the Lord can do that. And He's telling an incredible story. But I have the heart, I have a conviction that, like, how can we resource guys that you can do this locally, build your tribe, and then you're investing in some guys, and you can do it in whatever environment you want to do it in. And so again, that's where Tribe Builder comes into play. The first thing you have to do, and this is the first thing I want to talk about here with Tribe Builder, is you need to establish, what are we agreeing to? Because you can have an idea, we're going to have a blood covenant. Okay, well, good luck with that. We're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. Well, you can do that. But if you don't establish what we're agreeing to, then some guys will enter into it with their own expectations. And when our expectations are not met, then our feelings get hurt. And when our feelings get hurt, we remove ourselves. So what I did is I created a covenant like I do in Tribe, but this is for Tribe Builder. It's specifically for Tribe Builder. It talks about, for 90 days, it comes out to around 13 weeks. For 90 days, 13 weeks, we're going to enter into this community. We're going to engage in weekly meetings together. Like, Jared, I can't do weekly meetings. I ain't got time for that. Then you spread it out as long as you want to spread it out. But the more you spread it out, the more you're going to water it down. I don't think it's reality for most localized groups to meet every single day. If you can, if that's where you work, if that's where you live, you're in that community, man, I think that's fantastic. Most people can't do that. One of the things I talk about in the covenant is you need to embrace the reality. There are times you're going to need to get out of your comfort zone. You're going to need to show up and be prepared. Well, being prepared means I already know what we're going to talk about, or I know what we've been reading and what we've been doing. So I am ready when the Holy Spirit prompts me to say, I'm willing to trust y'all, and I'm going to get out of my comfort zone. I'm willing to understand that whatever is shared within this community needs to be stayed within this community. It doesn't need to be shared. It needs to stay within this community. To the best of my ability, I'm going to track with you guys. My guys are reading Genesis 5 today. I'm going to read Genesis 5 today. Guess what? Anyone I disciple beyond Tribe, guess what they're reading today? Genesis 5. They're going to track with me. I'm tracking with them. That way I can hit one thought. I can make the right investments in the right people. I don't want to be Genesis 5 in it and Leviticus 3 and Mark 2. And I tried that. I can't do it. So we're going to track with the same plan. We're going to pray for each other. You're going to create environments where guys can pray for each other. We're going to work on being a better man of presence within our home, within our church, and our community. I mean, if you're using Tribe Builder within your church, you could really challenge guys to, hey, we're going to rake so-and-so's leaves. We're going to fix their fence. We're going to help with the can drive, whatever. We're going to do these things. Like you can, and I know men's ministries that are doing this. And one of the things we need to understand is when we walk into these environments, we all have something to add, but we have a ton to take away. So we talk about, I want you to listen and learn well. I want you to offer what God has placed in front of you to offer, but I want you to be humble enough to know, hey, there's a ton that I need to take away. And so you say, how is Tribe Builder then realized? Like, what are the tools that we're going to get besides the covenant? Well, let me break it down this way. We're first and foremost, I believe you need to get in the Word every single day. And through Tribe, this is session 13, we have done a variety of different reading plans. Some of them have been all over the place. Some of them have focused in on certain aspects of Scripture. Some of them have been on certain people in the Bible. We've done one on Psalms and Proverbs. That was a long one. We've done all different things. And I think it's important to get in all different places of the Word. If we're not careful, we just kind of camp out in one area. We just really like that area, but we don't know have a clue about, minor prophets or major prophets or, the law. Or we some guys just love the law. Some guys just love the Gospels or the epistles or whatever. Well, let's spread it out. But to get people started, I'm a firm believer you need to get in the Gospels. So the first thing you're going to find, what I call a field guide. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but it's essentially an Excel sheet that's mapped out the full 90 days, 13 weeks, and you're going to read Matthew to John. Every day you're reading one chapter. I think there's a day or two where you're reading part of a chapter just to make it fit in those 90 days. Again, like I said with Point Man, sometimes that's the challenge. But every day a guy's going to get into a chapter of the gospel, okay? Or one of the four Gospels, forgive me, so you're doing that with the idea that eventually we're going to get together and we're going to talk about what we have been reading. So you say, well, that sounds more like a small group, or that sounds like, well, here's what I do. Every day I'm in contact with the men in Tribe. Every day I'm in specific contact with a number of people based on what I'm reading alone. And so if you had a WhatsApp group, a chat, a DM, whatever, with your people, then you're having daily conversations so that when you get together in your group and you gather and you begin to discuss whatever it is that you guys have been reading throughout the week and what you're walking through and working through, you hit the ground running when you get together. And so if you're doing that every day, and then in the field guide it shows you week 1, week 2, week 3, whatever, so it gets you to 13 weeks. And then we have what I call suggested reading. I'm not sending you the book, but I suggest you guys might want to consider this book. If you don't, that's okay. The author doesn't know me. I don't know him. I have taken them in through Tribe, or we've walked through Tribe in this book. And the book I recommend for this particular Tribe builder is Maturity by Sinclair Ferguson. And I have it mapped out on the right-hand column of the field guide, the whole book. So if a guy's like, I'm not a reader, right, 2 weeks to read one chapter. And if you can do that, again, when you're texting each other, you're messaging with each other, not messing with each other, I don't know how I got that. You're meeting for lunch, or you're going to, whatever it comes out to for your group, you have a lot of things that you can talk about when you get back together. Some guys are going to gravitate towards the book. Some guys are going to look at it like they have an allergic reaction to books or whatever. Don't fight it, man. Don't try to fight or force a guy to read a book. I've had guys in Tribe say, I never read the book. Well, that's on you, man. I mean, that's you. There's no points for false bravado. Nobody gets credit for avoiding learning. We're not going to applaud people who try to have an adverse reaction to growth. We're not going to do that. But what you do create is an environment where it becomes, this is what we do. This is what we talk about. So when a guy, let's say he's missed 2 or 3 weeks of Tribe, your Tribe builder, and he shows up week 5, he can look at that field guide and know exactly where you're at. Every week I have 10 questions to help, again, build this community. The end, I'll give you the last question. How can we all pray for each other? So guys start to share their prayer requests. Occasionally there's one that's like, yeah, me too, or he shared that last week, maybe I'll share that this week. But again, you're ending it with the one another again. You could do this in your backyard. You could do this in your garage. You could do this at a restaurant. You could do this at your break room, wherever. I would encourage you not to do it at your church. I think when you pull onto a parking lot of a church, no matter what your campus looks like, you're still at a church. And there's nothing wrong. I love the church. The church is the bride of Christ. But I think there's something about men connecting where men connect. You get a guy in a garage and he leans on something, or he notices a tool, or he has something similar, or you got a poster from the 80s on the wall or whatever. It's a natural environment. You can watch fire crackle. You can throw more wood on there. You can see who's the pit master when you're cooking together. You can, whatever. I think if you get in those environments, it just changes the conversation. And so essentially it's this. Tribe Builder is a 90-day or 13-week field guide mapped out for you to read through. This one, read through the Gospels. You can track per week. You get 10 discussion questions per gathering together. How you choose to do that gathering, that's up to you. What we do in Tribe is we have challenge videos and Zoom calls. Well, you're probably not going to be able to do that. You could if you want to incorporate that yourself. That's your call. And then you have what I call a suggested reading. All that is under the umbrella of the covenant that we are essentially agreeing to. And I send that to you. You make as many copies as you want. You can make as many copies of the field guide as you want. I mean, all these things, you make as many as you need. And what I do with the covenant is I sign every covenant that men in Tribe get. So they get their field guide. My name is at the bottom. My name's not at the bottom on this one. You put your name at the bottom. You date it. And above it, they put their name and date. Some guys in Tribe hanging on the wall. I've had guys mail it back to me. I've had guys take a picture of it, whatever. It's just saying we are committed to doing this for these 90 days. Now, maybe you can't get it in the 90. Maybe you got to go 105. Don't lose the heart of what you're trying to do. You're trying to build a tribe. You're building a localized, boots on the ground tribe. You say, when I walk with the Lord, I never walk alone. When I walk with a tribe, I just walk different. I know I have my guys. I know I have guys that will check in on me. I know there's guys that I'm checking in on. I'm not just calling out their sin or you need to do. No, we're walking along this together. Now, there's times you may need to do that. But what I want to do is I want to build a localized tribe. It might just be with 2 other guys. It might be with 10 other guys. I think there's a limit to how many, and then it gets a little big, but that's your call. You decide how that works. But with Tribe Builder, what I want to do is give you something portable, something foldable that you can put in your backpack, you put in your glove box, your lunch box, you can put in your tackle box, or whatever boxes you got, and you can put it in there, and you can take that with you wherever you go. Now, let me say this. I want to end with this. Guys, I said earlier about men in Tribe that meet up all the time and stuff, and I don't share many of those pictures. I share occasionally, depending on where they're at or what they're doing. If their wives are in it, I definitely don't, because I'll never post anything if I'm concerned if you're at home or not. I don't want to say, hey, so-and-so's not at home. But here's what I would love to do. If you choose to be a tribe builder, if you choose to do this, and it'll be in the gear store. You don't have to do it the next 90 days or 6 weeks. This is not a sales pitch. But if you get to the point where you say, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to build a localized tribe. I got a few guys together. Like I do with Pursue Wilderness, I'm going to ask you, would you send me a picture? Because I want to brag on you. I really do. The one more round and building better men and stuff, only a few people did I ever get to see them gather together and talking. Most guys I never heard from again. And that's okay. I didn't ask you to send me anything. You don't have to check in with me. Point man, I never saw people doing it. I heard people talking about it. Hey, this is what we did. I never saw it. Man, I would love for this to become part of who we are with the pursuit of manliness. We are tribe builders. Oh, we have tribe, and that's not going away. And the Lord is doing a remarkable thing in there. But I would love to see globally these tribes popping up. Wherever we got our, the guy over in, there's got to be someone in Scotland you got the guy in, South Dakota, you got the guy in God's country, Iowa, you got the person, in Nevada, whatever. And you take a group picture, you have your gathering or whatever it is. Man, I want to post that. I really do. I want to brag on that because I want that to be the norm. Here's what I know. Everything in life is a little bit contagious, isn't it? And when that becomes the norm and that becomes part of who we are, other people say, oh, is that what they do? I want to be a part of that as well. And so I would love for you to consider, am I in a place right now where I need to build a localized tribe? I will tell you right now before we get off this thing, because I know we're getting long, it's $45. That's it. $45, you're going to get this. You can do essentially about whatever you want with it. It comes out to, $15 a month. And maybe what you do is if you got some guys like, hey, we need to, maybe get them going in just a little bit. Again, $15, man. You get 2-3 guys, like $15, $45, you got it. You can do with it whatever you want. Like the other resources. Just, we'll say this. Would you send me a picture, man? Or pictures, every time you meet, maybe, I don't know. I would love to brag on you guys and say, hey, here's what so-and-so's doing in, Connecticut. Here's what someone's doing in South Carolina, whatever. And just show them this is what the pursuit of manliness is all about. Because at the end of the day, we are about vigorously equipping men to pursue biblical manliness. Amen? I'll talk to you in a bit.